G'day and welcome to the third annual Quilt Trunk Show. This year we have a record 30 content creators that come on and showcase their favorite quilt, and in some cases more than one quilt, of 2024. How this is going to work is I'm going to do a quick introduction to each of the content creators, and then we're going to let them talk for a couple of minutes about their favorite quilt. Some have sent in pre-recorded videos and some met with me on Zoom, so the format's going to be a little different as we go throughout the event. Some of the channels are fairly well-established channels that you may already know, and some of these may become your new favorites. A lot of the content creators will be in the chat during their presentation, so please feel free to ask any questions. And if you're watching the replay, please leave a comment if you have any questions, and we'll do our best to get an answer back to you. So grab a quick beverage, grab a snack, and enjoy the show. I have been a fan of our first guest since her day one. Her fun, bubbly personality shines through in each and every one of her videos, and it's one of the things I love about her channel. It is none other than Martha's Creative Life.
Hey, Sean, it's Martha. I'm still here.
I know. It's good to see you again.
I know it's great to see you, and it's great to see everyone else. I hope happy New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, whenever that you're watching this. I hope that your 2024 has been a great year. So I'm glad that you got to invite me to your quilt trunk show, and then we get to have a few minutes of chinwag.
I know, right?
Yes. So what I wanted to show you today was one quilt top that I made in 2024. And it's special because I got to do this with Stephanie. You know, if you all know me, she's my bestest sister-in-law ever. This was a project that has been a couple years in the making. We not designed it. We designed the time to do it together. It was a project that we wanted to do. She invited me to do it. She says, I have a pattern for you. It's called Simple Simon, and I have some fabric that I think would be great with it. And so we started working on it together. And so it's been a labor of love. It's supposed to go on one of the beds in the house here. So I'm not quite sure which bed we're going to put it on. But we had a lot of fun making it together. And so that's what I wanted to show you. But I'm just going to hold up part of it so that you see some of that we've done.
I love that. It's such a neat pattern, and it'll be a wonderful way of using up a lot of scraps if you want to as well, because we're always looking for that scrappy project, especially those long, thin pieces of fabric. And this would be perfect for that.
Yeah. And what it was designed for is it's called Simple Simon. It's by Cozy Quilt Designs. And the fabric that we used is Sonic Dust, and it's by Riley Blake. So, but it was a jelly roll.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that jelly roll, and you cut it up and you put a background, which we used it wasn't a white and it wasn't a gray, it was like a grunge color.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so we had a lot of fun and a lot of hours put into it. Hers looks very similar to mine, but of course we used the same fabric, we used the same pattern, but how we placed all of our colors was completely different.
That is awesome. Maybe we can
Yeah.
get a picture of hers and add it up there as well.
I would love that. I will ask her if I
Okay.
can get that for you. That would be great.
Okay, perfect. Well, this is great. And I think it's always fun when you can sew, because you guys don't live close together, is my
No,
understanding.
we
So
don't. She's way up in Minnesota and I'm down here in Alabama. And so we just get on FaceTime and sew together. And that is our sewing time. We absolutely love it. She always gives me happy mail. That's
yes.
her love language of giving to me. But my way of giving back to her is time with her. That's so
Yeah.
important to her and important to me. But she just loves it. So that's what
I
we
think
did.
that's great. It's
Yes.
something I really should do, myself with my sister. So,
I bet she would love that.
yeah, we just got to find the time. She's got two toddlers running around, so trying to find the time for that's a little difficult. But that's something we'll have to talk to her about, and maybe we can work something out. But I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me for a few
Oh,
minutes
you're
and
welcome.
showing your quilt. It is beautiful, and I just love the story behind it. So thank you again
Thank
for
you.
joining us. If you haven't seen Martha's channel, you need to go check it out. She posts when she can. She always has fun content, and her bubbly personality you see here is just Martha 24/7. So, you'll love that as well. So go check it out. And thank you again for hanging out with us. And we'll now move on to our next guest.
Thank you, Sean. Y'all take
You're welcome.
care. Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.
Our next guest burst onto the YouTube scene quite recently and had quite immediate success, and no wonder why. Her videos are entertaining, wonderfully made, and always about topics that you may not necessarily think about. And she recently hit 10,000 subscribers. It is none other than Amy Dement.
Thank you so much, Sean, for having me and inviting me to be part of this. I really think it's a fun tradition that you've started, and I love seeing everybody's quilts. My quilt behind me, well, my quilt top behind me is my Mickey Mouse quilt, and it's a pattern called Take Me to the Magic by Sterling. I should have looked up her name. Her name is Sterling, and I have made one before. I made it in Hawaiian fabrics from when we went to Hawaii. I got all these fabrics and I made a quilt for my husband. He wanted one that was warm. So it's got double batting and minky on the back. And it is warm and it's heavy and he loves it, but it's his. And I wanted one. So I, for a long time, have been really pleased. I'm a huge Disney fan, and I have been so pleased with the inclusivity that the Disney companies promote. I mean, part of it's marketing, but I really, really appreciate that. And so I have the little pin with the Pride Mickey, but I had this notebook, and I was like, hey, I can do that. And so I did. And it's just 5-inch squares. I'm going to move out of the way so you can see it. And I've got a picture of it that Sean will include. But it's just 5-inch squares. But I had the most fun pulling 5-inch squares out of my scraps. And it's always scraps for me. And all the different blacks, you would be surprised. It's like, oh, it's just a black background. But there are probably 40 different black fabrics in there, and they all look a little different. I love the way it turned out. I cannot wait to get it on the long arm. I'm going to quilt with matching colors in each of the bands, and I cannot wait to have it finished. It is on my to-do list for next week so that I can have it by the end of the year.
That is awesome. And I just love that you used, like, I would not have picked that you used the Pride pin to do that, but it just looks fantastic. And you know me, rainbow is my favorite color to quilt with. I've said that many times.
I love a rainbow quilt. All of them.
Me too. Absolutely. No question. So I think you've done a wonderful job. I love that it's scrappy. I love that you have so many different fabrics. It's a project I try, I've done scrappy projects like this in the past, like with crayons and Darksons and stuff like that, and it's always turned out beautifully. So if you have a bunch of scraps laying around, find a project like this. It's so much fun. And as you can see with Amy's, it can turn out so beautifully, even if none of the fabrics match. So just get out there and have some fun with it. And so with that, thank you so much. Did you have anything else, or did I?
No, I was just going to say, you said none of the fabrics match. And I think I am thinking about it now. I don't have any repeat fabrics in any of my colors.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There are in the black fabrics, but in the colored fabrics, I don't think there are any repeats. I've been collecting scraps for a long time.
We all do, don't worry. Yeah, I think I did a Darkson one once where we had 84 different fabrics, and I think I repeated once. So yeah, it's a challenge, but it's fun, and each fabric tells a story. You look at that and you remember, oh, I made it for this project or whatever. So thank you so much for joining me with this, Amy. It's always a pleasure having you. I loved having you on, I think, last year and seeing the story of your first quilt, and now to see this quilt top as well. It's just absolutely amazing. So thanks again for hanging out with us. Go check out Amy's channel if you haven't already done so. It's amazing. It's so much fun. And we'll now move on to our next guest.
Thank you so much.
Our next guest has been on YouTube for about 5 years now and likes to be able to help inspire creativity in her audience. She is live at 6 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays and is none other than the True Blue Quilts, Miss Andi.
Hello. So good to be with you. I'm Andi from True Blue Quilts, and I was honored when Sean invited me to his annual Favorite Quilts episode. Let me introduce my quilt, Castor Pollux, and tell you a little bit about why it's my favorite quilt of 2024. This year, I extended my exploration of stretched quilt blocks. In 2023, I started the Little Bit Different project, and I decided, just like the name says, I wanted to make my quilt blocks a little bit different. So instead of using a square size, such as 9 inches or 12 inches, I was playing with rectangular blocks. They finish at 6 by 9 inches. And I had some more ideas, so I played with those dimensions again in 2024. This is the Gemini quilt block. And if you remember your astrology, Gemini is the twins. And so I've got the 2 half rectangle triangles, and then I included these 2 little accent pieces in the overall block. And when I put 4 of those blocks together, it made this larger star. And so I made the whole quilt, and then I did some more research on the constellation of Gemini, and the 2 primary stars that make up that constellation are Castor and Pollux, and that's the name of the quilt. Let me tell you about the fabric that I used for Castor Pollux. These are all batiks from Island Batik, and I have some friends that design the signature lines of fabric, and this all came from the collection Prisms, which was designed by Cathy Engel as a signature line for Claudia of Create with Claudia. And I just loved the tone-on-tone prints with the pink and the purple, and of course all my favorite blues. And it even had this fun accent of yellow that I used in the border, and then a fun multicolor for the outer border. So I love playing with collections and collaborating with other designers. I'm going to do a variation of this design coming up in 2025, so I hope you'll join me for that. Happy quilting!
Our next guest's channel has been growing and evolving over the last couple of years, and I'm really excited to see how it has grown and evolved into something absolutely spectacular. She likes to showcase smaller channels, so that way they get a little bit of the spotlight as well. Please welcome Lisa, the Awkward Quilter, Georgia.
Hi everyone, this is Lisa. I go by Awkward Quilter GA. I want to thank Sean for allowing me to participate in this collaboration of other content creators who will be showing their favorite makes of this year. The favorite make that I selected was a quilt I started in January, completed in January, and quilted in January. It is a Lori Holt. It was part of a Lori Holt kit. And when I saw it, I said I needed to purchase that quilt kit and make that quilt kit. It is my favorite. It is a keeper. And so I hope you enjoy seeing it. I will have a short video of what the quilt looks like. It's rather big, so I was not able to hold it up myself or hang it on the wall behind me. But again, I want to thank Sean for allowing me to participate. I'm looking forward to seeing what all the other creators have selected, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Our next guest started off his channel doing paper crafts, but then switched over to quilting a few years ago, and he has a little bit of something for everybody. No matter what your taste, I'm sure his channel has something to offer for you. He goes live on Sundays afternoons with his husband, Walter. It is none other than Stephen the Idiot Quilter.
Hi, Sean. Thank you for this opportunity to share one of my quilts that I'm very, very fond of for several reasons, and I'll put it up here on the screen. It is a Quilt of Valor quilt that I made, about 1.5 years ago, and I haven't seen it in quite a while until about 2 weeks ago when Walter and I were invited to a Quilt of Valor Sew Day, where they were going to do a presentation of quilts to vets, and they asked me to come along because they were presenting this quilt that I made to one of the vets. And I have his presentation, a picture of us, and we did this in the National Air Force Base Museum, and that's why there's a big plane in the background behind us as well. But this particular quilt is made with Northcott fabrics from the line called O Canada. They come out with this line and add to it every year, and I absolutely love it for several reasons. One, it has maple leaves in it, although this particular quilt didn't have any maple leaves except in the flag. It is a panel, and apparently this quilt ended up being shown throughout for 1.5 years before it was presented at various events that the Quilt of Valor people were at, advertising or promoting their organization. And there was one very touching story about a gentleman, a vet, who was standing in front of my quilt when it was on display, and he had tears in his eyes. It makes me almost choke up when I think about it. That was the effect my quilt had on him. And and they were not tears of sadness, they were tears of happiness, I was told. So I'm glad that my quilt had an emotional effect on somebody, because don't we all strive for that when we make our quilts, that they should in some way touch someone personally? And I was very glad that this quilt had done that. The gentleman who received it, you can see him there holding it up. He seemed to be very, very taken with the quilt as well. And this quilt was especially picked for him according to the organizer of this group. So that also made me very, very happy. What inspired me to make this quilt is one of your questions. Well, I'm always inspired by the fabric that I already mentioned, but also I found this particular panel was very moving. I thought it had a very positive outlook on something that is not associated with positivity, war, military, that kind of thing. So I think that's what grabbed me. So yeah, it did appeal to my soul as well. Yeah, so I think that's all I can say about this quilt. I love this one, but I love even more the fact that somebody else is going to love it for the rest of their life. So thank you, Sean, for the opportunity to share this with me, or with you. Words fail me.
Our next guest likes to be able to showcase quilts from start to finish, including the mistakes, which I absolutely love. And she also is a Island Batiks ambassador, so if you like batiks, she is definitely the choice for you. It is none other than my friend Brittany Fisher from Bobbin with Brittany.
And friends, it's Brittany Fisher here from Bobbin with Brittany, and I'm excited to share my favorite quilt from this year, and it's definitely the Woven Hearts quilt. The pattern was from Fat Quarter Shop. They did a sew along that was part of the Sew Pink blog hop with by Andi, which increased awareness and fundraising for breast cancer awareness. I was super excited to partake in that because I got to use the Island Batik Peach Blossoms collection, my favorite collection that came out this year. It's this range of pinks and browns with some blue sprinkled in. And then the background I used is called Vanilla, is from their permanent collection. So that vanilla background with this soft palette, very pretty. And it matched well with this heart theme. Just all came together really well. It's foundation paper piecing. And this is the first time I've done such a large foundation paper piecing project. I've done little elements before, and it's beginner friendly because it's just a few angles and not too many like small pieces, and it really came together nicely. I tackled 10 blocks a week. There's 80 blocks altogether, so it was pretty big. The person that I have in mind to give this to is my cousin's daughter. She's graduating this year. She's a cheerleader, super girly girl. I think she's gonna love this palette and the heart shape. It seems to match her. I look forward to seeing all of your projects, what you loved working on, and it's just great to see the whole range of talents on this end of year event. So thanks for stopping by. I'll see you on my channel. Bye-bye.
Our next guest has been on YouTube for a while. She has a lot of fun content, a little bit of everything. I think that's something you'll really enjoy. I love listening to her talk, and it's none other than my friend Jamie from the Quilting Compound.
Hey y'all, I'm Jamie from the Quilting Compound, and I would like to thank Sean for inviting me to the 3rd annual Quilt Trunk Show. And today I wanted to share with you one of my favorite quilts, and it is this Bargello quilt behind me. It's a 4 1-yard cut Bargello. I created the pattern. This is my second quilt using this pattern, but it is my favorite. I do like the colors. Here is the first one. I use these colors. And my daughter also helped me with the design of this quilt. So you could say it's kind of a family affair. With this quilt, I used Pam Buddha, Kim Dill, and Kansas City Troubles. Those are the fabrics used in this quilt. And it goes perfect because this quilt will be a gift for a family friend of over 50 years. She's a lover of antiques, so I think these colors will be perfect for her. So I'm so glad that I can gift this quilt away this Christmas. And I also wanted to say that I had an inspiration for this quilt, and it was from a viewer who wanted a quilt using yardage and not pre-cuts. So I accepted her challenge, and this is what I came up with. I have already made 3 of these quilts. It's quick and easy, and I really do like that. I will do another one. Here comes January, and I'm gonna up the challenge, and I'm gonna use 6 yards to make one of these, and it's gonna be a good old-fashioned stash buster, because with all the Black Friday sales, well, actually Cyber Monday sales, I kind of went a little, with all the fabric buying. So I need to bust my stash, and I will start that come January. But this is one of my favorite quilts of the year. It's serving so many purposes of inspiration, of yardage, a new pattern, a gift, and it is also one of the first quilts that I quilted on my new long arm without making too many mistakes. It came together, sewing it came together quick. I got it completed on the long arm. It's bound, it's done. So this is one of my favorite quilts of the year. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas or a great holiday, whatever you celebrate. I hope everyone has a great New Year, and I want to thank Sean for inviting me along with this trunk show. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Our next guest is one that I've been following since her day one, and I absolutely love listening to her accent. It's so calming and soothing. It is my friend Janice from The Right Way.
Hi, Sean and friends. Thank you so much for having me again on your trunk show. I really appreciate your thinking of me, and welcome to everyone who is watching, and hello to all the collaborators for this video. My name is Janice. My channel is The Right Way, and I make mostly quilting videos. I have a small channel. I try to record and upload weekly, and every now and then I have a live, usually on a Thursday or Friday. My goal for this year is to make it to 500 subscribers. So if you are so inclined, please check out my channel and subscribe and like my videos, and of course share it with your community. My favorite finish of this year is my first Cotton Cuts mystery puzzle mystery quilt. I did the autumn shades small, and I loved it. It came out fantastic. I'm going to insert some pictures of the video, or I'll share some pictures with Sean so he can share it with you. But this is like one of the most professional, I would say, professionally designed, maybe for fear of getting in trouble, but very professional. I've never made a quilt like this, and I like it a lot. I like it so much that I signed up for the Puzzle Mystery Quilt for next year. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like the quilt I made, and I'll see you in YouTube land. Bye.
Our next guest is a good friend of mine. I love listening to her lives whenever I can. She is so engaging and so interactive with her audience. It's always so much fun to go over and join her lives on a Sunday morning. Sometimes she has them on Saturday evenings and Wednesday nights as well. There's none other than my friend Dani from So Not an Expert.
My favorite quilt of the year, I've made a lot of them this year. In fact, I've made a record number of quilts this year, but this one is my Man Cave Rules quilt. And this one is my absolute favorite. And it kind of came late in the year. It was something that I've had kind of in the works and planned for all throughout the year, but it just kind of came together right at the end of the year. It didn't take long to do. It's the pattern is called Hillside Charm. By Villa Rosa Designs. It's a panel quilt, so you do have to have a larger panel. It doesn't really work with the smaller panels. You could probably try, but it didn't really work. So this panel is a large panel, and then the fabric line that I used was called Man Cave by Wyndham Fabrics, and I just absolutely love this. It's going to be for my stepdad. It's a Christmas gift for him, so thank goodness he won't see this until then. But it's a Christmas gift for him, and I just absolutely love it. I decided to go with a flannel backing on it instead of your traditional cotton backing because I really wanted it to be kind of cozy. I'm picturing him in his man cave because he has one in the basement. I'm picturing him in there with his recliner and he's watching the football game and it's a little bit chilly, because it's cold outside right here in the Midwest, and he'll cuddle up with his blanket to keep him nice and warm. So that's kind of what I'm envisioning in my head. I'm sure that's not what's going to happen, but that's kind of where I'm going with it. It was super quick and super easy to do. We made it live on our channel, which is where we do most of our projects, and it went together so fast. It was like, I think 2, maybe 3 episodes, 2 hours up at a shot, and it was done. So like, this is a great weekend quilt for anyone to do, especially if you got one of those panels laying around that you're just not quite sure what to do with. This was panels, fat quarters, and some yardage. I think it was a half a yard of extra fabric. And that's it. Like, you could do this in a stash buster. Like, there is no need to buy anything extra that you really need as long as you have that panel. And even if you don't have the panel, I mean, you could just pick out some fun fabrics and just kind of mesh them together a little bit in some type of fun, crazy way, and then put the border around it. Because that's really all it is it's just borders. I mean, obviously you guys will see a picture of it, but it's really just borders. It's really a lot of fun. But I loved this fabric because of the masculinity to it. It was, obviously there's the man cave rules, but then the fabrics are, game controllers and card decks and pool balls and dart boards, and it was just so much fun. And I loved the colors. I loved the fabrics. It's just so much fun. So I've really been looking forward to this one, and I'm so glad I was finally able to get to it. I was worried that I wasn't going to get to it this year because of all the stuff we've got going on, but I can't wait to see his face when he opens it. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say this has definitely been my favorite one. It's just so much fun, and
Yes.
I really enjoyed it. And it's so easy, so easy.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we all need that easy, quick project because, like especially myself, like I do the intricate Art East and Elizabeth Hartman and that sort of thing there. But it is nice to be able to whip out that, quilts on a weekend type thing, I guess you could call it, or that sort of thing there. And it's just a lot of fun. And it's really neat too to have that masculine line too, because, we've
Yeah,
talked about it on
I'm
the channel
loving that the
before.
fabric companies are doing that they're trying to incorporate more and more of these different types of prints that I wouldn't necessarily say that all of the prints are feminine, but I appreciated the fact that this one is a little bit more geared towards the masculine nature than a feminine. It's not
Right.
flowers and beautiful color. Don't get me wrong, those are all beautiful as well. But I really like the fact that even I've seen some outdoorsy ones, the animals and things that are more outdoorsy. I've really enjoyed that. And in fact, I have another fabric set that I'm going to be working with probably next year. Same thing. It's more outdoorsy and things like that. So I'm really liking the fact that our more fabric companies are doing that. But this one was just I fell in love with it the second I saw it. I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Yes.
It came as a kit, so that made things really easy for me. I didn't have to match anything up. It was just it was a fat quarter bundle with a panel. So it all came as one little kit, and it was just so fun and easy to do.
That's really fun. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, and I think you'll probably end up giving a lot of people inspiration when they want something, fun and easy and that sort of thing there. And we'll try and link the patterns and that sort of thing wherever we can as well. But thank you so much for joining us, Dani. It's always a pleasure having you on the channel, and hopefully we'll have you back on again really, really soon. And we'll now move on to our next guest.
Do you need to know what to do with your scraps? Well, our next guest may be the answer for you. She has a lot of wonderful content. She tries to do a couple of videos a week, including her famous Free Pattern Friday. It is none other than my friend Brenda from Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda.
Hello from Conquering Mount Scrapmore with Brenda. I'm Brenda, and I would love to say hello to Sean and all of his viewers from The Guy That Sews. Sean asked me to do a short 3-minute video on my favorite quilt that I finished in 2024. Now, I have a funny story that also goes with this quilt, but anyways, this is the quilt behind me. This quilt started out as a guild challenge to make Jan Kingwell's Mrs. Bannister's star. So I figured, okay, yeah, I can do that, no problem. And of course, the bunch of us that gather all the time, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. We all had the pattern book and off we went. So I decided, okay, I looked at this pattern and I was like, Star Wars fabric. I have Star Wars fabric that I would love to use. So what I did is I fussy cut. It was all the little black background, all the little figure guys like Yoda and, Millennium Falcon and, all of these wonderful Chewbacca and all of the little Star Wars characters. I decided, okay, I had this piece of yardage and I was like, what am I going to do with it? What am I going to do with it? So I decided, okay, I'm going to fussy cut all of this out. And I had white Star Wars fabric. And basically, this is Christmas Star Wars fabric because it says, Merry Force be with you, not May the Force be with you. But I thought, okay, so that works. And I wanted to pick up colors from the figures, like, 3CPO's got a lot of gold. There's some red in here, and there's red in the white background as well. So I figured, okay, so we'll make Mrs. Bannister stars with, gold or yellowish crosses, here diamonds, and then red rounding. And of course, the little black cornerstones. And I don't know if you can see this, but I did use more scrap fabrics in the black, red, gold, white, piano keyboard kind of thing. So anyways, I had all these pieces cut out. This is a funny story. I had all the pieces cut out, and my oldest daughter is a real Star Wars fan. I had all the pieces for this piece here. Like, it wasn't even put together in a block. And she claimed it as hers. And I was like, oh, okay, you're not even going to let your little sister, take a peek at it to see whether she wants, nope, it's mine. And I was like, all right. So I said, you have no idea what it looks like yet. And she says, I don't care. It's Star Wars fabric. I'm going to love it. So I was like, okay, so here we are. Now, when we're filming this, it's something like December 6th. I haven't quilted it yet. So I didn't tell her which Christmas she was getting it, but it will be hers. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed my funny little story and my cute little Star Wars. We haven't decided to call it Mrs. Bannister Star Wars or Jan Kingwell Meets the Force. We haven't figured out which yet. But anyways, this is my fun quilt. Okay, guys, you take care and stay well until we see each other again. Bye!
Our next guest is one that does not have a YouTube channel, but is still a good friend of mine, and I absolutely had to have him be part of the show. I showcase his patterns all the time on my channel. It is my friend John from Art East Quilting Co.
Hi, John McPhail here from Art East Quilting Co. And I'm here with my best friend, Sidon. Don't let Dandy hear. Mwah. And we're here to talk about our favorite quilt of the year. So I always know that I really like a quilt when I make several of them, and that was indeed the case with my haunted cabin quilt. So I actually made 3 of them this year. I made a queen size one using all Riley Blake confetti cotton solids, and I made a medium sized one for more of a lap size using some more traditional, or I should say modern traditional, Halloween fabrics in different oranges and purples and pinks, also all Riley Blake confetti cotton solids. So this quilt is a take on the traditional log cabin quilt, and it's actually constructed that way, except we actually have ghosts in there. So it kind of melds my love of traditional patterns with more modern motifs, if you will. But my favorite version of this quilt that I made this year is the one that you see behind me. And this is the small version, and I've made it super scrappy. So I actually used all Ruby Star Society fabrics across several lines, some Halloween lines, some regular lines. And I actually patchwork all of the pieces together, even if my pattern didn't call for it, just to give it a super scrappy look. And I just love the way that this turned out. And in fact, I loved this so much that I'm going to apply the same principles to my upcoming Farm Fresh sampler quilt, which I'll be making in 2025. So that is my favorite quilt of the year, the Haunted Cabin quilt. And I think Sidon is a fan as well. And we look forward to seeing you guys next year and to keep making with you guys in 2025. Say goodbye, Sidon.
Our next guest started her YouTube channel about 18 months ago, and it's been so much fun to watch her grow and evolve over that time. She showcases a lot of different content on her channel, but mostly free patterns. So if you're looking for a new pattern to inspire you, duck over and check it out. It's none other than my friend Deb from Sew with Debbie.
Hello everyone, it's Sew with Debbie. I was thrilled that Sean asked me to take place in his New Year's video again, so let me dive into this. I am featuring the Duckworth style quilt, which I did in one of my episodes, which is featured right behind me. And before I forget, happy holidays to everyone, and I'm wishing you all the best in the new year. So let's dive into how this quilt came to be. Okay, to answer a few questions regarding my favorite quilt, how did I pick the selection? Well, anybody that knows me knows that blue is my favorite color. So I end up with quite a few scraps. I was at a meeting and I heard someone talk about a Duckworth quilt, so I decided to look it up and figure out how to do it myself. So I'm calling this a Duckworth style because I've added borders and normally you don't. So how to do this, you start with a color in the center. I used orange because it is a complementary color to blue. And then it's similar to a log cabin where you just join on one side, you trim, you add another, and you just keep going around and around until the size you want. So what I did in the end is I developed blocks that were similar to this. And you will notice that mine are off center because a Duckworth is traditionally a scrappy style quilt. This measured 6 inches finished or 6.5 untrimmed. So what I did is I made them oversized and then I put a 6.5 inch ruler that I have. I put it down until it covered all the edges and then I just trimmed it down to size. I joined them all together and then I have the quilt I really like. This is one of my favorite ones to do because you can use it as a leader or ender. And what that means is as you're starting up your sewing machine, you can put in a lead of fabric, and then when you end your row, then you can end with another. So I would actually sew some of these as I was going along. You can see that every block is slightly different. So again, you've got this one where it's totally wonky, this one where it's more on a vertical format, and these are 4 blocks together that have been joined and they all are different. So I'm a scrap quilter, so I love anything that uses up my scraps but also has kind of a nice unique flavor to it, so it doesn't look totally offbeat scrappy, if that makes sense. The question was, who is this quilt for? Well, this is going to be a donation quilt. Originally, I was going to keep it for myself. Life gets busy. I could only finish so many blocks, and I decided it's better off being rehomed to somebody who can use it. And I do plan on making another for myself. I'm just showing you some of the blocks as I answer some of these questions. And so through one of the groups I belong to, we donate a lot of wheelchair style quilts. So this will either be a wheelchair or it'll be a small cuddle quilt. I'm leaving it up to our outreach group to decide which one it feeds in the best. So what I've done on the back side to finish it off, I just did a simple crosshatch quilting pattern because I have to be able to handle it on my sewing machine at home. And then someone had given me this nice flannel backed fabric, so I decided to use that because that's nice and cozy. And then for the binding, I have a sheet that is in stripes that I use for the strips on my binding. So you'll probably see this being used a lot in my finishes. So what I'll do next is I will take some pictures showing you what it looks like in full size. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you want to make one for yourself, it is my episode 42 on Sew with the Bee. Just a little bit of a persuasion. If you would like to try this yourself, I have seen it in very many colors. And I've always, while I was working on this at meetings, I've always had some really positive feedback from other quilting friends about how much they like this design. So let me showcase it. And again, Happy New Year. Please check out all the content creators that are included in this video. And thank you again from Sean, from The Guy Who Sews. You've been a huge supporter over this past year for me, and you've allowed me to grow my channel and share my patterns with a whole new audience. So take care, everyone. Have a great year ahead, and I'll see you in my videos.
Are you looking for a fun live to join in on a Thursday night? Then my next guest is definitely the answer for you. She has a lot of fun content, her shorts are fantastic, and I always love joining her live whenever possible on a Thursday night. And it's none other than my friend Tasha from Tasha Quilts.
Hi everybody, I'm Tasha from Tasha Quilts, and I'm excited to talk to you today about my favorite quilt of 2024. This is a rarity for me because I loved this quilt so much and I'm so proud of it that I actually made it twice, and I've never done that before. So the quilt I'm talking to you today is called Pinnacle Pop. You can see here's the completed one. It's in a little bit of a rough condition. It's been well loved by my family. And you can also probably see this one behind me, a baby size version of this. This quilt is one I actually designed and wrote a pattern for. And it's the first time I had ever done that. This is the first quilt I ever designed from scratch. I absolutely loved the way the shapes moved and the flow of the colors. The first colorway I did was in these dark blues and purples and yellows, and it felt really fall-ish to me. And I designed this in the fall of 2023. It didn't come together until 2024. Designing this quilt was quite the adventure. It did not start off looking like this. Here's a little screenshot of what this quilt looked like when I started designing it. You can see it, the bare bones in there, but you can see how far it's come. After I wrote the pattern, I decided I wanted to make the baby version as well. I used quilt ink to come up with different mock-ups and to finally pick the colors that I chose. I really love pinks and purples, and that's obvious. You can tell that by looking at this, right? Thank you, Sean, for letting me show off my favorite quilts of 2024, Pinnacle Pop, and I will talk to you all later. Okay, bye!
Our next guest has a little bit of everything on her channel, and if you're looking for a live on a Saturday or a Sunday morning, she is the place to hit. It's always fun to hang out with her, and sometimes you even get to hear one of her fun birds in the background. It is none other than my friend Donnell from Donnell Stitchery.
Hey guys, Donnell with Donnell Stitchery here, and I am a content creator. I do a lot of different types of quilts, foundation paper piece, and traditional piece. I also make small crafts. I love doing tutorials and everything. And I do take requests upon tutorials on quilt blogs or anything else that people may want to see. I have dabbled a little bit in doing some clothing making. My favorite is quilted jackets. And I just love making all different types of things. I love hand quilting, hand sewing, machine quilting, machine sewing, machine quilting, machine sewing. And I've also been dabbling a little bit in hand embroidery as well, off camera until I get a little bit more comfortable with it. Then I might start incorporating that into my channel as well. And I also love hand painting 3D printed objects that my husband and son 3D prints. So come check out my channel sometime and everything. I would love to have you guys over there. And if you like my channel, make sure that you leave me comments to let me know, as well as subscribe to my channel because I love having everyone over there. So anyway, my favorite quilt item that I have made and everything thus far, at least one of my favorites. This was a really hard thing to decide upon. But as of right now, my favorite item is my Love Gnome quilt. Iton had tested this. This was a pattern I tested for Andrea Jamais, which is Mama J Enterprises. She has a YouTube channel as well. And she writes patterns and sells them and everything and all once her testers are done with them. I am one of her testers. I just taken a little bit of a break from it for a bit to get a lot of background stuff all taken care of and all. But this here is a pattern. It's wound up being I would say about crib size, but it was super cute, super wonderful. I absolutely loved it. This was a bunch of tiny pieces. My first time ever doing tiny pieces. And all of the letters, as well as the gnome and the heart, were all from a fat quarter bundle I ordered. And then the background was all yardage. And it is all print fabric. I just love how everything came out beautifully and played so nicely together and didn't overwhelm one from the other. And I just really, truly loved this quilt. It was so much fun. The fat quarter bundle I actually ordered from Amazon. I ordered 2 of them because I so love that fabric. I've never been really big into floral fabric, and this year it seems like my taste has changed where I'm really loving the soft, delicate florals, which is a lot of fun. And there were some boo-boos, but I mean, just like with anything else that you make and everything, there, especially being handmade, there's gonna be boo-boos. There's gonna be bumps in the road. It's all about how you take it and how you process it and how you get past it. And way I look at it, if it's a boo-boo that I can step 5 feet away and I don't see it, then I'm not gonna sweat it. Or if I can show it to my husband and son and they don't notice it, then we're good. And a lot of boo-boos can be hidden with quilting. This year I just did straight stitch matchbook quilting, and then I made it into a wall hanging and sent it over to Mama Debbie over at Debbie and Quilt Facts. Daughter Mirtha, my little adopted sister and everything. I sent it to her and she has it hanging up in her cubicle at work, which is really awesome because she also loves gnomes. But anyway, hope you guys all come over and subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you. We do so much fun stuff over there. And I'm a big gnome lover and I love purple. And I love incorporating these 2 loves into my channel. I just love so much stuff. Guys, come hang out. It's a lot of fun. And we do like little fun questionnaires and everything. On Sundays during my live stream, I have some Family Feud cards here that I do questions. And then see what kind of funny answers you guys can come up with in the chat. It is so much fun. And it's just for having a blast while I'm doing my hand sewing. And to help encourage everybody to keep the conversations going, too. Hope everybody has a wonderful, beautiful day. Bye.
Our next guest is one I've been watching for a couple of years. It's always fun to watch her lives and just how she interacts with her audience, and it's just always a lot of fun for everyone that participates. She's also a fellow ambassador for Cotton Cuts, which I think is really fun. It's none other than my friend Krystle from Krystle Heart.
Hey y'all, my name is Krystle and I'm from the channel Krystle Heart. And this is the quilt that I chose as my favorite quilt for 2024. It is the Shine On Quilt Block of the Month by Camille Roskelly, Thimble Blossoms. So the reason why I chose this quilt is because there's a lot of heart behind this quilt. On my channel, we did a sew along we started in April of 2023 and it ran all the way until April of 2024. So a year-long sew along that we did with this quilt and the cross stitch that went along with it. So it's near and dear to my heart because I sew along with all of my gems, is what I call them. So there is specific fabrics that go with the block of the month, but for me, what I decided to do was I got a lot of the Camille Roskelly, the Thimble Blossom fabric, scraps, because I love scraps. So I got a lot of the scraps and I just kind of pulled from the scraps each month rather than buying like a kit or all of the yardage needed for the quilt. So some of it is actually not in the Shine On line that goes with this, but I just chose what I could or what I had on hand. I didn't try to go out and find anything extra. I just happen to have a lot of it on hand. And then some of it is not even from any of their line, but it matched. Like this fabric over here is just a peach color that matched, so I used that. But it was just so much fun because each block was so different. There's a house, a bee. I know y'all can't see it all as I'm pointing, but I'm sure Sean will have the picture up. The X's, it was just a lot that went into it, and it was really fun to be sewing along with the gems. There's a flower over there. I love that one. The bee and the flower
I think
might
it's
be
a
my
fantastic pattern.
Yeah, it is. It is. So the fact that it took a year to put together, and I don't know, I love it. And I just finished the cross stitch for it. So now I haven't backed this or quilted or anything, but I have the cross stitch and the quilt. So I will be keeping this for myself. It is not going to anybody else because a lot of work has been into this. And I just want to be able to admire it until forever, really. And hopefully in 2025, the Gems and I will be doing another sew along. So if you want to join in with that, you might want to come over to my channel and see what's up for 2025.
That is awesome. And I love that if you hadn't have told me that it was all scraps, I wouldn't have thought about it. And it's nice when you can pull stuff from your scraps. I've done that a lot with my recent projects, and it's always satisfying when you can go shop your own stash.
Yes,
So
I love
you
it.
did a fantastic job with this one. I really, really like it.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, Krystle. If you haven't already done so, duck over to Krystle's channel. She has a lot of fun content. She loves interacting with her gems, which is what she calls her viewers. And like myself, she's also an ambassador for the Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt, so you'll get to see her sew that along as well. Thank you again for joining me, Krystle. It's been a joy, and we'll definitely be doing projects together in the near future.
Yes, thank you, Sean.
Our next guest also has a flourishing YouTube channel, and she also usually posts her lives on a Thursday morning, and she's also a small business owner. It is none other than Kim Moves from Cotton Cuts.
All right, fantastic. Okay, thank you so much for having me, Sean. So my favorite quilt, the one that I want to share with you guys today is, it's a Lone Star quilt. And so this is a pattern I've been looking at for a long time. And then Moda did their annual Sew a Jelly Roll Day. And I had been eyeing up this Lone Star pattern that was jelly roll friendly. I don't normally do pre-cuts. I'm not a jelly roll, mini charm pack, layer cake type person, but I was like, I have a Tula pink jelly roll and I have a jelly roll pattern and it's jelly roll sew a day. And I was like, we need a quilt for soccer. My family is big into sports. I talk about this pretty frequently. And we need a quilt for the soccer field. It's September. We need something for the fall. I am going to do this. I have a jelly roll. I've got a pattern. And so I made the quilt and we will send you guys photos of it. And it's interesting because I learned when I read patterns to be careful of things that are jelly roll friendly. Just because something is friendly doesn't mean you should use a jelly roll for it. And so what I have learned is that it needs to be a real jelly roll pattern. Thankfully, it's Tula Pink. I have a lot of scraps of Tula Pink. I have a lot of fabric for Tula Pink. This is a collection that I could easily supplement strips from my stash with. But this was not a pattern that could be made with a single Jelly roll. So that's my big kind of aha moment through this whole sewing process. I love it. I was able to do fun things with the borders. I had enough leftover pieces from my not Jelly Roll family project to be able to piece the back. So I will actually send you photos of the front and the back of the quilt. But yeah, I think that's kind of my, whenever you read a pattern and it's Jelly Roll, check to make sure it's not Jelly Roll friendly, because that just means adjacent to, and you should probably have more fabric on hand.
For sure. And yeah, the first thing you told me that you don't use a lot of pre-cuts, yet you own a company that does a lot of pre-cuts. I just find that very, very interesting.
So I'm not a like a layer cake. I would not know what to do with a layer cake. I'm not a jelly roll, and I think it's just my preconceived notions. Jelly rolls are so expensive, and
Mhm.
layer cakes are so expensive. However, like behind this design wall here, I have like charm packs that are like stacked up like this because I can sew those into a quilt top like nothing. But yeah,
Right.
when it comes to jelly roll, there's just something psychologically I can't sew a jelly roll.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I've used a Jelly Roll once. I actually did it during Jelly Roll Day this year, and it was one someone sent to me, and I was like, I finally pulled it out and turned it into something. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I guess I have used it one time before, but I actually cut it up into like 5.5 inch strips and made a temperature quilt out of it. But yeah, I'm not a really the only time I use pre-cuts for the most part is when I'm making your projects. You know, the
Yeah.
puzzle mystery quilt, the stitchets and all that sort of stuff there. So,
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, I'm sitting cutting it myself. But it is fun not having to cut it too, which is really nice.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe that's the difference is if I was to get like a layer cake and just be able to stitch it together and be done, like the puzzle mystery quilt. Like you just stitch them together and you're done. Like
Yeah,
a jelly roll, I feel like there's still another level of cutting. Like
yeah,
there's some pattern setting and there's a lot of thought that still needs to go in how to use it. And I feel like if I make a mistake, it's all trashed. And
yeah.
I feel like that's one of the benefits of the puzzle mystery quilt, right? It's all like I am sewing a pattern and there's a defined end. But I mean, behind me, I have my Stitch It project, right? And I'm still kind of making that up, but I don't have to cut anything more. And I feel like that's probably one of the big differences.
Yes, absolutely. And I love the stitch. I mean, I've been working on the Stitches project throughout the month as well, and it's been a lot of fun.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw you had different layouts. So that's what I did with pink right there is I did some
Okay.
2 stars and then this is my red here. And so I just did like each one of those corners is a single print and then it has a border. And so Paul's encouraging me to do that. And so it'll be all over our channel soon, I guess.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kim. It was a pleasure having you. It's been a pleasure. I love partnering with you and your company. It's just always so
Mhm.
much fun. But thank you again for hanging out with us for a little bit and sharing your time and talent. And we'll now move on to our next guest.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Our next guest is a good friend of mine and was the one that picked out the fabric for me for the latest puzzle mystery quilt. I always love hanging out with my friend Amber from So Majestic.
Everyone, my name's Amber from So Majestic. Thank you so much, Sean, for allowing me to be a part of your end of the year trunk show for all the quilts. I chose to use my Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt. So this was from Tree of Life, and this was my favorite because this is the first time I've ever did a quilt that was more a neutral colorway. These fabrics, it's called Sea Sisters by Shell Rummel, and it was for Free Spirit Fabrics. And Free Spirit Fabrics happened to be one of my favorite suppliers. And I just thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I love the ocean. I've always lived within like an hour drive or so of the ocean. And I just loved all the movement through the quilts because it was neutral, but there was plenty of stuff that looked like here it looks like sea glass, and you have the center that almost looks like flowers. And I just thought it was so pretty. And my favorite thing also is I don't enjoy doing the actual quilting. So this right now is just pieced. For me, that's my favorite part. I love putting things together. It feels like a puzzle. So I just absolutely loved the end result. And I love it so much that this is the first time that I've ever finished a quilt and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to put this on my bed. So my goal is at the end of the year after the holidays, I am going to get some Minky and take it to a long armor and have it backed. And for the first time in my life, have a quilt that I have made as my bedspread. So I hope you enjoy looking at this and that you might have found it helpful. Thank you again, Sean, for being so awesome and so supportive of all of us quilters out there. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their year.
Our next guest likes to be able to entertain and educate her viewers by breaking down quilt blocks into different styles and offer different ways of making a quilt block. I always love interacting with her and talking to her because she's always a lot of fun. It is none other than my friend Ginger from the Copycat Quilter.
Sean, and hey quilters and copycat quilters out there. I am so excited to get to share with you today my favorite quilt of 2024. If you ask 100 quilters what their favorite quilts are, they're probably going to be 75% or so that say the last one that I made. And that's very true for me. This quilt I made was for the Quiltmas 2024 challenge and contest that we had, and I'm calling it Starry Nights. Now, it might be hard to see, but this quilt is all scrappy. The background is that dark blue, and I just made sure to keep all the blues within a really close range of each other so that it looked like one solid background. It generates a lot of interest when you can look at it up close. For the brights or the yellows, I used more of a variety there because I thought it kind of gave the stars a little bit of twinkle. And there's actually one fabric in there that is from an ombre that has gold dots on the fabric. I don't know what I bought it for, but I actually bought a fat quarter bundle of it in different colors. So I thought using that and using some of those whites and brights kind of made the stars twinkle and look a little more diverse than the background was. But keeping that background very similar was very important to me. One other reason I love this quilt, it is the first quilt pattern I've ever written. I released it December 8th, and it's on my website at gingertquiltco.com. Of course, I'm excited about my first pattern release, but part of that is because I make up a lot of quilts as I go along, and I always get people that ask me, what pattern is that? And that's one reason I started doing this channel, was so I could do tutorials on how to make up your own quilts. But I thought this one deserved a chance to be shared as an official pattern with everyone. Starry Nights is my favorite quilt of the year, and I love the idea of the winter of Quiltmas, being able to cuddle up on a dark winter night and just be warm and cozy, drinking hot cocoa and probably watching Hallmark movies on TV. Again, thanks Sean for letting me share, and I hope everyone has happy holidays and you make your favorite quilt as your next quilt.
When I think of the first quilting YouTube channel I watched, this is the first one that comes to mind. I've loved watching her content from the very start. She's the reason I started the Puzzle and Mystery Quilts, and so much more. I've loved watching her channel grow and grow and grow, and it's none other than my friend Fallon from So Be It Quilts.
I am so excited to be a part of this series that Sean has been putting together every year. I wish I could say that it was hard to decide which quilt I made this year was my favorite. I mean, I did make over 30 quilts this year, but it actually was not hard at all. My favorite quilt that I made this year is this quilt here. And this quilt was so fun to make. I had been wanting to make a black and white quilt forever now, and when I saw this fabric line, I had to dive in and get this quilt made. It is a very simple quilt. It's just half square triangles from a layer cake, and they're placed on point. But the part that really speaks to me is this is the first quilt that I completely finished that has some hand quilting in it. Within each triangle, I did some hand quilting, and it really brings this simple quilt to life, in my opinion, of course. I am always using this quilt. I keep it down with me on the couch, and I use it to cozy up and read pretty much every morning. So this, of course, is my favorite make this year. Sean, thank you so much for inviting me to this series, and I cannot wait to see everyone else's favorite quilt.
Next up is the only person that's been on all 3 of these shows. He has a podcast on Sunday mornings, a live Saturday mornings, and various other videos during the week. That is none other than myself. So let's talk about my favorite quilt from 2024. When I thought about this, and I'm glad we decided to include quilt tops on this because it's not quilted yet, only one quilt came to mind. There's a lot of them that I really enjoyed, but the one that I had to pick, and you probably already know, let me know in the comments or the chat if you don't already know the answer to this, is the Wizard of Oz. This is not one I started in 2024. I actually started this in the winter of 2022, so it took me about 2 years to make. But this is one I absolutely love. I love all the different characters on it. It's designed by John over at Art East Quilting Co., who you saw a little while ago. And I can't really show it all here. It's almost near impossible. But I'm going to put a picture up here of it as well, so that way you kind of get to see it. I've always loved the Wizard of Oz series, and when this quilt So Long came out, I sat on the fence for a month or two before I decided to hit the buy button. But it's been such a fun journey since. And I love being able to put it together, and it's something that I want to quilt in the near future, but it's something I really want to just take my time with and figure out what quilting pattern I want to do. Part of me wants to put maybe some Easter eggs into it, maybe quilt some of the things from the movie itself or the book, but we'll just have to see, time will tell. I spent so long putting this together, I don't want to ruin it by just slapping a quick quilting on there as well. And so that is the story behind my favorite quilt, and we'll now move on to our next guest. Our next guest is a lot of fun, and especially if you like foundation paper piecing, because that is her speciality. She is a certified legit kits instructor, has a wonderful life on a Sunday morning, and does a lot of fun projects. She designs her own patterns, showcases and helps beginner FPP artists, and everything else. It is none other than my friend Shannon over at Slay Arts.
Great. Well, thank you, Sean, for having me. For me this year, my favorite quilt that I did it's called Blade Runner Blooms, and it's actually a pattern that I wrote, and it was a lot of firsts for this. This is kind of what it looks like. You're not going to be able to see the whole thing. It is like a 71 by 71 inch quilt, so it's a big one. But the reason why I love it so much and I'm so proud of it, and what there's so many firsts of, is it's the first quilt along that I've ever done a mystery. It's the first mystery quilt along I've ever done with my own pattern. So, and I learned so much from having people actually test the block before I put it out there. I had to do videos, so learned how to put up weekly videos on my own webpage. Got emails scheduled to send to the folks that had signed up for it. And so it's one of the proudest moments of the whole year that I actually, from start to finish, from creating the pattern of the flowers to doing the whole quilt along with everybody that signed up. And I learned that I'm really, really bad at Facebook and keeping on top of interacting on Facebook. There's just so many different places to interact, and I found out that I'm really not good at Facebook. So if I do another quilt along, mystery quilt along in 2025, I'm gonna have to figure out another way to communicate with everybody and share the pictures and everything, because I failed at the Facebook thing.
And that's okay. I mean, I've said this a million times that, every quilt or every experience is a learning journey. And, like, I don't think you really, you can try and prepare for these things as much as you want, but until you actually do it, I don't think you realize just how much goes into writing a pattern, or especially hosting a sew along or a quilt along like this. And I don't want to, I want to try and, not correct you, of course, but just say that it's not that you're bad at Facebook, it's just that you see a need for improvement
Yes.
in that area. So, maybe try it again, or try Discord, or maybe a different aspect, or see what the viewers would like and expect from you as well. And most of the time, they're very forgiving, as long as you just tell them, hey, look, I'm doing my best, but I'm not perfect, and I have a full-time job and that sort of thing as well. So,
Right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. But it was a ton of fun. And if you want to I would recommend it to anybody. It was a really great learning experience on especially like posting these things on a weekly basis on my web page. I learned how to like make it scheduled and be all automated and everything, so I didn't even have to think about it. That was a lot of fun. And that was a fun learning experience. And yeah, so that's why this is my favorite quilt for the year.
That is awesome. And I've thought about doing something like that in myself. So if I ever decide to do it, I might have to come to you and ask for help. So there we go. But thank you so much for joining me, Shannon, and Shannon's kitty.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't remember the name, so I'm bad. But thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure having you as always. And thank you so much for sharing the story. It was so neat seeing that quilt and the story behind it. So I hope you have a good New Year's, and we'll now move on to our next guest.
Awesome. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Our next guest loves interacting with her audience, and it's always a joy to be able to join in our live either late at night on a Sunday or on a Tuesday evening. Sometimes she puts in some bonus lives as well. Her content is always fun. She loves using bright and bold colors, which is always a joy to me. It is none other than my friend Tammy from Siberian Wind.
Hey everybody, so I'm Tammy and the Siberian Wind, and I decided that this was going to be the quilt that was going to be my 2024 most important quilt. I did not make it in 2024. I actually made it many, many years ago, but it's the whole reason that I got into doing my own designs. So I feel for me, it's too easy to just pick up a pattern and follow what somebody else has done, choose the colors that they chose, and do all of these things, and I'm not very creative when I pick someone else's pattern. But when I design my own, whether that is something art and abstract like this, or whether it is something a little bit more traditional, I feel like I can let my voice shine. I originally designed this quilt for a challenge with one of my local quilt guilds. They asked us to design a quilt that was a path, or your path, and they didn't specify what kind of path they were looking for. A lot of people wanted to go to the beach, so they chose to do a picture of a beach with a path on the beach or something. Or they wanted to go to the mountains, or they wanted to be in their cabin. So a lot of the quilts that were submitted for the challenge were applique quilts, and mine's very abstract, very modern compared to what everyone else was submitting. But mine shows my path with my disabilities. So as I go through life, and when I hit a rough patch or a different color of change in my life's gotten a little bit more challenging. It's not to say that my path doesn't still exist and that my path isn't still beautiful, but it definitely changes and gets darker the further down I go, because I never regain abilities once I've lost them. So I like the symbolism that's in this quilt, and it's the first quilt that I designed on my own, and that's really a big challenge for a lot of people, is coming up with a quilt that is 100% your own design. So I chose fabrics that really indicate who I am, the galaxy and the purples. There's actually little rhinestones on here back in the background, and then there's also rhinestones at the points of each of the flying geese on the quilt. So I didn't make it in 2024, but it's kind of my inspiration piece for starting my channel, which I did start in 2024. So yeah, that's my favorite quilt for 2024, guys. Thank you.
Earlier in the video, I said that Fallon was the first content creator that I started watching on YouTube, and here is the second. I love watching her channel grow. She has such fun content. She puts great effort into making wonderful content, and it's something you'll definitely get to enjoy. It is none other than my friend Kris from over at Soda Distance.
I had so much fun making quilts this year, and I can't wait to share with you a few things that I made, but I will absolutely show my favorite. But first, my name is Kris O'Neill from Sew the Distance. Thank you so much, Sean, for inviting me to this event. I look forward to seeing all the quilts, and I am so thrilled to be participating in this. It was so hard to come up with a favorite. I narrowed it down to a few, and I think I might have gotten it down to 2 of my favorites. Okay, I hope that's okay. But I made table runners this year, and I have this wonderful camping quilt. I finished my pandemic quilt complete with toilet paper on the back. But the 2 favorites that I have are these 2. So this one, which is a crazy quilt that I made, and I do have a tutorial on this. I love how this turned out. It's bright, it's wonderful, and it is so me. I love it. I love that it's like all vintage crocheted items or linens in the prints, and it's just, it's so cool. And then my other favorite I made this past summer, let me grab it. And it's this one. This took me 100 days to make. It was part of a collab with Fallon from So Be It Quilts and Michelle from The Simple Quilter. Michelle invited me to it, and it was so much fun to make. It took me 100 days to make. I used all scraps, and I got scraps from friends. So there's scraps from friends in this. Finally, I was really brave. I quilted it myself, and I used metallic thread to give it a little bit of sparkle. This was such a fun project, and definitely my favorite of the year. I hope you all have a 2025 that is full of wonderful projects too. I can't wait to see next year what you've made, and I can't wait to see what I make too, because I have lots of plans. I hope you have a great year. Thanks again, Sean.
Working with and managing your scrap pile can be challenging, as we've all noticed, I'm sure. There are wonderful channels out there that can help you with this, but another one that I really enjoy and watch whenever I get a chance to is my friend Kristen from over at Scrap Fabric Love.
Sean, thanks for inviting me to be part of your roundup. My favorite quilt this year was my Big Blocks quilt-along quilt. So this was a quilt-along I ran on my channel. And it was a bunch of really huge 20-inch quilt blocks, and it comes together really quickly to make a quilt. And I don't have the quilt anymore because I gave the one I made away to a friend who was moving away, which is part of why it was my favorite, because she just really showed that appreciation that everybody wants to get when they give away a quilt and we don't always get. So anyway, she loved it. I made it in the bright colors that I know that she likes. And this is also one where I've gotten loads of messages from folk who watch the channel and tried it out. So I've seen all sorts of versions of other people's, other people making this quilt. So that's been really, really fun. So that's why it's been my favorite. And folk can make it themselves if they want. I'll send Sean the link for the video series of that if he wants to include it. But anyways, I can't wait to see all the other quilts on the list. And thanks again for including me, Sean. Bye.
Our show here tonight is truly international. We've got people from the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, if you count me, and then also one from Greenland. It is my friend Katy from the Greenland Quilter. I've loved watching her channel grow and blossom over the last couple of years. She has lives usually on a Saturday and other days of the week, so definitely go over and check it out.
Hello everyone, my name is Katy of Greenland Quilter. I'm a Florida girl who migrated to South Greenland to be with my Heartlight, Nikolai, who is a native Greenlander. I have lived here since August of 2011. I'm a master gardener who loves to make quilts, crochet, photograph everything that catches my eyes, cook, and create recipes, read, go sailing, and more. I am sharing some of my masterpieces with you. So I have been working on this block for an entire day. And as you can see, I love color. So this is called the Barrister's Block. And I thought I would share it with you because this is not paper piece. This is all piecing. And I used all batiks in this. The piece you see behind me, this was crocheted. It took a year long to make this mandala. I call it Arctic Lights, and it has 32 colors in it. Now I will share some of my quilts with you. This particular quilt, I designed it, and I call it Floating Tetras. And we did a sew along at the beginning of 2024 to make this together. And I enjoyed making it, and I learned a lot while I was creating it. And this is the back. And now let me share my next piece with you. This is from me doing a pattern testing for Andrea of Mama J Enterprises. And I'm just going to show you, it is finished, but it's too big for me to show you, but you can basically get the idea of what it looks like. This was done in batiks, all batiks. Okay, and my next one is I just finished this cute little flower. It's going to be a gift for someone, and this is also made from batiks. And on the back, I put my label on it. So this is just a sample of some of the things that I've been making, and I hope that you liked what you see. And thank you for watching. And as I said, I am from the Greenland Quilter channel, which is my channel. So come over and have a visit. Thank you for watching.
Our next guest has a wide variety on her channel. She likes to upcycle old clothes, work with scraps, and make stuff that her family absolutely enjoys. I always love having her on the channel. It's always a joy having her as a guest, and today is no exception. It is none other than my friend April with Quilt and Sew with April Sawtell.
I'm April Sawtell, and Sean, thanks so much for having me today. A channel called Sew and Quilt with April Sawtell. On my channel, I do a lot of improv quilts, a lot of scrappy quilts. I love scrap fabric. I love working with old fabrics, new fabrics, scrappy fabrics. I try to recycle a lot of things. I love working with old clothes, but probably my absolute favorite is scrappy quilts. If you're ever interested, just go over and check out my channel. So Sean invited me today to show a quilt that I've made this year that was my favorite. So this is a nativity scene quilt. Really what it is so easy. So let me tell you about it. So I've made this quilt behind me. It's a 40 by 44 quilt. It's very small. What it is, I have a lot of old fabric. Fabric I've bought at estate sales, yard sales, you name it. Things that have been gifted to me, and I love using it up. So here's what happened. I was down in my Christmas bin. I wasn't really going to make a Christmas quilt. While I was going through my fabrics, I just came across this nativity fabric. Well, it's probably not a fabric I would have bought or chose, but when I saw it, I knew instantly I needed to do something with it. Here's why. So my grandkids, they're here a lot, and it's a free-for-all with my Christmas decorations. They love playing with them. They especially love like the nativity set, the little Santas, the little figurines. They love that. And I'll show you a few of those in just a second. So while I was looking at the fabric and I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to be perfect. I'm going to make a nativity quilt. So I just used the piece of fabric, batten, I put some backing on it. I sewed it all together as if you were making a regular quilt, but this isn't pieced, it was one piece of fabric. I thought it was so appropriate to have this at my house and have it out for Christmas. So while the kids are playing with all of the Christmas decorations, I'll have this quilt to lay on the floor and put all of the little figurines on as well. And I thought they would think this is a lot of fun. I knew that I didn't want it to be quite as plain as just a flat piece of fabric, so I decided to put flange on this. Thought by adding the flange would just kind of dress it up a little bit. So I decided to do 3 flange. So I did red, brown, and little pops of yellow. I loved the yellow in this, so I thought, let me just put a few little pieces of yellow just to kind of make it pop. My grandkids are going to love this. And my little nativity set is broken, but that's okay. They don't mind, and they still have a great time with it. Thanks again for having me, Sean. Thank you, guys. Happy New Year, everyone. Bye.
Our next guest started off her channel showcasing how to make bags and transition over to quilting, and she has done a wonderful job, and it's been so much fun to watch her grow and blossom her channel over the last couple of years. It is none other than my friend Mona Did What.
This is the crinkle cut. I made this on Handmade with Ying by Donna's channel with Tucker 2 years ago. I finally finished quilting it.
Our next guest is a good friend of mine and started off her channel quite recently doing a mix of sewing, quilting, and cooking, but has very quickly transitioned over to quilting. She is often a guest on other people's channels, and it's always fun to sit there and chat with her. It is none other than my friend Cathy from My Hobby Ho.
Thank you, Sean, for that introduction. It is such an honor to be
included in part of all of these beautiful quilts with all these quilting friends that we have here. Such a great community. This is my favorite quilt. The pattern is called Silverstone. It is a Robert Kaufman pattern. The line that I use is Starberry by Corey Yoder. What inspired me to do this particular pattern was I was doing a sew along on my channel, and I was just trying to find something simple that any skill level could do, you know, from beginning to, you know, a beginner all the way to an experienced quilter. This is a fabulous pattern for that, and I absolutely love it. Beautiful quilt, turns out to be a great throw. It is already being well loved by my grandchildren and I, so we really love this quilt. Fabulous, fabulous quilt. I absolutely love it, and I backed it with the same line, the tan color that's right here above me. I backed it with that. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this, and I hope everyone had a great 2024 and hope to have a fabulous, prosperous 2025. Goodbye.
And we are down to our last two guests, and our next guest is one that I really enjoy watching his content, whether it's his lives on a Sunday afternoon or his tutorials for the Puzzle Mystery Quilt. It's always a joy to watch him. He does wonderful content. His production values are just top-notch, and it's none other than my friend Ian from the Off Kilter Crafter.
Hey everyone, thanks Sean once again for including me this year in the Trunk Show. I'm so excited to talk about another one of my favorite quilts that I have, and that one is the Showering Stars quilt. Now this is a Robin Pickens pattern that I put together, and I decided to do this as a sew-along on my channel. So I broke it up into several weeks and brought it into kind of bite-sized pieces that I hoped everybody would be able to kind of work on together. Felt like they were pretty manageable pieces, so that way nobody got too far ahead and nobody got too far behind. My quilt is a lot of fun because I decided to make it scrappy. So I went into all of my scrap bins, a lot of Tula, by the way, a lot of Tula pink fabrics in there. But I dug into my scrap bins and found some wonderful fabrics to put together and kind of collected them into color groupings. So you kind of have like a pink red, a yellow orange, a green turquoise, and kind of a blue purple. And I really love how all those stars came out. Those showering stars ended up working together so well. And I did change the pattern just a little bit. It wanted me to add some of those white blocks into the tails of each of the showering stars, but I just had so many fabrics that I wanted to choose from and make sure to include in those star trails. So I ended up foregoing those, and I'm so glad that I did because it left more room for amazing, beautiful pieces of fabric that were just hanging around in my stash bin. Now I am a little biased, I do like the piecing on it, but I'm going to tell you what, the quilting is what makes this quilt spectacular. Beth from Goody Goods did graffiti quilting on it, and she picked a beautiful golden kind of thread to use on it, and it came out beautifully. I think that graffiti quilting just really highlights the quilt, but also just adds so much texture and beauty to the quilt. So I love how it turned out. Now this quilt is a newer finish for me. I finished it about mid-year this year, getting the binding put on, and just in time for some quilt shows. And I am thrilled that it won 2 ribbons, a first place ribbon in one show and an honorable mention in another. Love how well this quilt is being received, and it's one of my favorites. I love it. I think my love of astronomy and space really makes this quilt special to me. I have a couple of space-themed quilts, but honestly I love this one so much because of the colors and because of the space theme. Really love just everything about it, and I can't wait to get it into some more shows, hopefully around the country, so that way I can share my artwork with other people. Now, like I said, this is a part of a sew-along, so not only did I create a quilt, but a lot of my community members also created quilts using their favorite fabrics. And I have loved seeing those quilts on social media, and several people have mentioned that they had bought this pattern a while ago and just never had an excuse to do it, and I was very happy to hear that they got the motivation to work on it whenever I announced the sew-along. So there's other quilts out there that are the same pattern using their favorite fabrics, and I love that there's kind of like sister quilts to mine out there in the world. So there you go, there's my entry into this year's trunk show. Again, Sean, thank you so much for letting me be a part of it. Happy holidays, everyone, and a happy new year.
If you ask any of my quilting friends, where are you going to be on a Friday night at 8 p.m., the answer is likely going to be on this person's channel. She has a wonderful live on a Friday night. Her other content she puts out is absolutely amazing, and it's always a joy to be able to watch and hang out with her. It is none other than my friend, Becca.
Hey, Sean, thank you so much for having me on your trunk show. I'm excited to be here. I was here a couple years ago, and I watched last year. I passed on that opportunity, but I'm excited to be back here and join with you again. I've got 3 quilts that I want to talk to you about that are my personal favorites from this year. The first one is a quilt that I pieced. I started piecing it with Tiffany, I think a couple years ago on a live stream that I did on my channel. It's following the pattern Lisa the Unicorn by Elizabeth Hartman. And I felt like this was an appropriate quilt to talk about with you because you helped me take the plunge with the Pandas and Sweaters Elizabeth Hartman pattern.
And I'm so proud of you for that.
Yeah, well, that's on our list to be finished this month. All the blocks are made. We just have to sew them together and get it quilted. And I'm really excited to get that gifted and fully finished to Mary. But I did finish an Elizabeth Hartman pattern. Originally, I was going to do more of the unicorns and put them into a big quilt. But in the end, I decided just to leave it as one beautiful unicorn in really pretty different colors. And so I call it my pink fluffy unicorn. It's all quilted, bound, and ready to go.
Excellent. That looks beautiful.
The second quilt that I want to talk about that I really love is my trellis garden quilt. So this is a pattern that I came up with and wrote and released, I think, over the summer. And the goal of this quilt was to help showcase some of those prints that are really big and you're just afraid to cut into. It helps you tackle that fear of fussy cutting. And so this one turned out really good. I'm super happy with how it came out, but I got to tell you, one of my favorite parts of it is actually the quilting that was done on it. Beth from Goody Goods did this really pretty kind of like windy quilt element over the top of the quilt. It's just an edge to edge, and it just adds enough dimension to the quilt that I think it makes it pop. That pattern, by the way, if anybody wants to pick it up, is available in my Etsy shop. So I'm sure you can put a link to that in the description box down below.
Oh, absolutely.
And then the last one that I want to talk about, because apparently I can't just talk about one quilt, I've got to be an overachiever and bring 3 with me, is my most recent finish that I am loving. And it's so funny because it's probably the simplest of all of them to make. This is called my Chunky Stripes quilt. So I took 7 different fabrics that were part of a curated half-yard bundle that I had bought online. I didn't think the fabrics would go well together, but I was in a bit of a slump and I didn't know how or what I was going to do on a live stream. So I decided to pull that half-yard bundle out, and I got a harebrained idea last minute to pull some white off of my shelf as well. And I just cut really big 6.5-inch chunks of those 7 prints and put a 1.5-inch narrow white in between each of the rows of color, did an inner border of 1.5-inch white, and then I did an outer border of 6.5 inches to match the size of those stripes of color. And the whole idea with this was I just wanted a quilt that I could practice some of my Pro Stitcher custom quilting on, and that's exactly what this let me do. It also has Minky on the back, so it's nice and warm and cozy, and it's honestly my favorite finish this year.
That is awesome. And I really thought that the cathedral quilt would have made an appearance on this list, but that's okay.
You know, it's interesting that you said that, because as I sit at my desk at work on the days that I get to work from home, I sit at my work desk and I look up at the wall, and that quilt with its beautiful honorable mention is hanging directly above my desk. I should have mentioned that, but since you brought it up, that is another favorite of mine. Yeah, I feel like quilts are like Pringles. You can never have just one.
Exactly. And you're not the only one that's going to have more than one quilt on this show. But yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule. It's always a pleasure having you on the channel. And if you haven't checked out Becca's channel, go over and check it out. It's a lot of fun. Thank you once again for having me. Well, not having me. I'm used to being on your channel. Thanks for being with us.
And that is a wrap for the 3rd annual Quilt Trunk Show. I'd like to say a special thank you to each of the presenters that took time out of their busy schedule to make a video or take time to record with me to make this all possible. And I'd also like to thank you as the audience for tuning in. I would also love to hear your feedback. I'm going to put up a Google form so that way you can tell us which quilt stood out to you, what you loved about the show, and any improvements. I love hearing feedback, and the feedback that I've been given over the last couple of years, I've tried to incorporate into this year's show as well. I'd like to thank each and every one of you one more time for tuning in. If you're watching the replay, I'd love to hear your comments. And if you're in the live chat, thank you so much for being part of this wonderful show, because without you, it's just not the same without a live audience. I hope you all have a great day, Happy New Year, and a prosperous 2025. And we'll see you all on the next one. And if you haven't already done so and you enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you hit that like button. I'll see you all later on the next video. Happy New Year.